Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues. With this video, I want to talk a little bit about this two-part Doctor Who audio adventure from Big Finish, starring Paul McGann as, of course, the Eighth Doctor, and Sheridan Smith as Lucy Miller. I got these two particular audio adventures from my good friend Howard. Thank you very much for sending them my way. And listened to them today, and they were just pretty awesome. The first one, of course, is The Eight Truths, and this is kind of like broken up into, I think, two episodes, which is precursor to then the follow-up, which is World Wide Web. And I love it because it all has to do with, calling back on the classic era of Doctor Who, really, with the John Pertwee story, Planet of the Spiders. This was his final story, if memory serves, just before the regeneration into Tom Baker's fourth Doctor. And I have yet to actually see this story. Of course, the very first of Tom Baker's, adventures, Robot, we do see a little bit of that regeneration effect and everything. But I don't know. I'm not familiar with the Planet of the Spiders story. And what we basically have with this story is it's taking place in this very year, 2015. There seems to be some history between the Doctor and Lucy. They've been traveling for a while. And there's something like 600 years or whatever the Eighth Doctor had spent on a sort of surrogate home planet known as Orbis. And he basically saw this planet destroyed, and he's kind of carrying that around with him, much as the later incarnation of the Doctor, the Ninth and, 9th, 10th, 11th, all of them really, would carry around the weight of losing Gallifrey. We kind of see that the Doctor, you don't really get a whole lot of that sense that he's, mulling this over and carrying this regret with him in this particular story, but there are mentions and nods back to that. There's also a character that's integral to this story called the Headhunter, who you can basically see on this particular cover, this chick right here with the glasses. There's a history between her and Lucy, as well as one of Lucy's friends, this woman Karen, who also appears in this story. And it all revolves around the Great One, sort of the Queen of the Spiders, or as they prefer to be called, the Eight Legs. And they want to, sort of create a hive mind, not only on Earth. Earth is kind of the center of this entire plan, where they will potentially take over the Earth and everything like that, but they're utilizing this device that's basically, it's kind of like a stellar manipulator. They call it a false sun. And what that amounts to is, through the use of Metebelis 3 crystals, calling back on that Planet of the Spiders story, and really a lot of Pertwee's era, because he was always trying to get to Metebelis 3 time and time again. Finally, in one story he did. I think it was the Green Death just before, Joe Grant leaves, if that's the one I'm remembering correctly. He does get there for time. In this particular story, it's interesting how these crystals are being used by the Eight Legs and by this headhunter woman who's kind of in cahoots with the Eight Legs in their plan of manipulating humanity right in the heart of their own minds, It's kind of like a drink the Kool-Aid cult. There is this cultist leader who made up all these stories, or at least that's what he thought he was doing. He was actually being manipulated in mind by the Great One, the Queen Spider and all that. And it's just interesting to me because as this story unfolds, we basically see a division between the Eighth Doctor and Lucy Miller. They are apart for a lot of the story because Lucy has fallen prey through interacting with her old friend Karen. She's been lured into this cultish nature, and they hand her a Metebelis crystal. This takes over her mind, and they realize, or at least the Great One realizes, this is the cream of the crop. Lucy Miller will now become the surrogate to my own persona, and essentially Lucy is at risk of losing her own personality, her own self. Her body and mind are becoming inhabited by the Great One, this Queen Spider. And so the Doctor's sort of off dealing with other things, this stellar manipulator and this false sun, which all coincides with the prophecy that he doesn't know right away as the story begins, but it's something he figures out and pieces together. And he's working with, there are a couple of characters that I really like in the story. I will be referencing the back of the CD for the character names. There's Kelly Westwood, who is somewhat of a journalist, an investigative journalist, and she's taking to the airwaves on TV and radio broadcasts to try to, you know, pull back the wool that has been covering the eyes of the world for this particular cult. I mean, they're in the millions all over the world. People are getting their hands on these crystals and being manipulated, drinking the Kool-Aid effectively. And as things are building to a cataclysm, you know, this woman has been trying her best to try to show the truth of the matter. And also, once again, referencing the back of the CD case, there's Dr. Avishka Sengakara. And he basically is a scientist who I love in this story, this character, because he doesn't seem put off by all of the crazy stuff that the doctor is revealing to him. You know, the doctor kind of comes in at the start of the story, the first part, the Eight Truths part of the story. And, you know, he's like, you have a space probe that's been lost. There's another one that's been lost. Well, actually, no, let me tap on the computer and check with UNIT to have my credentials given to you and all this stuff. So, you know, I'm not somebody who, you know, is readily distrustable and whatever like that. Just owning the scene. Paul McGann does as the doctor, as usual, you know, as he would do in any number of adventures. And what I love is this particular scientist, he's just rolling with the punches. He has questions, but of course, you know, there's no time for the answers. What is the TARDIS when it finally is revealed to him? He's just shocked and delighted by the inside of it when he finally gets to see it toward the end of the story in the World Wide Web portion. And I just like how there is somewhat of a rapport and a respect between those characters. Come to find, one of the greatest aspects of these Big Finish audios is each of them comes with a sort of bonus track that's like behind the scenes stuff. And it's interviews with the actors and such. And so there is actually a history between the cat who plays this scientist and Paul McGann. They had worked together 10 years previously as of the time of the recording of this piece. And so they were working together again. And that's pretty awesome. You kind of get a little bit of a friendship and a rapport in the way they interact with each other. Another aspect of the story I thought was fascinating, overlooking the fact that, you know, it's calling back on Planet of the Spiders and all this mental manipulation and those kinds of things, is Lucy Miller herself. This is the first time I've ever listened to any of the Eighth Doctor audios or anything starring Lucy Miller. I love her character. You know, she seems very much like, you know, you can tell she's been traveling with the doctor. It's kind of like perturbing her to a point that the doctor wants her up at the crack of dawn, and to the point of his, you know, getting the hotel or whatever she's staying at to call in the morning to wake her up. Oh, and then the alarm clock goes off and she hadn't set it. So all this kind of stuff, she is taking it in stride. She's been dealing with it for a while, you can tell. And it's interesting to see sort of the mental breakdown that happens through the manipulation of the Metabilis crystal. And this particular Eightfold Truth is the name of the cult that uses the crystals for the spiders, you know, surreptitiously so and all this stuff. To see her breaking down and falling prey as they uncover more information about the doctor and their relationship, and they try to cause that divide, and that divide is a wellspring. You know, basically the doctor gets taken out of the count for a little while because sort of perceiving his involvement and wanting to try to you know, get him out of the picture, the spiders, or, you know, whoever you want to say is actually behind it, sends this sort of chemical bomb that's supposed to kill him. It doesn't, and knocks him out, and he's out for like almost the better part of a month, which of course they skip ahead in the story. And all that time, Lucy has been a part of this cult. But the most fascinating aspect is once this great one, you know, sort of Queen Spider has taken over fully Lucy's body, her mind is then shipped out to this stellar manipulator to sort of a memory reserve where all of these people who are, air quotes, dying on Earth, their mentalities, which are now taken over by, you know, the eight legs, the spiders, are now in this memory reserve. And in order for the doctor to save Lucy, he ends up transmitting her consciousness into sort of coinciding with the consciousness of the TARDIS. I just thought that was frickin' phenomenal because, of course, everything that we've seen in the televised series, the Doctor's wife and the TARDIS has its own sort of telepathic consciousness and everything. There's a point where Lucy's actually chuckling because of something the TARDIS is thinking about the Doctor. We don't really delve into it, but just that relationship and that dynamic between the Doctor and the TARDIS, between the Doctor and Lucy and the TARDIS, it's just phenomenal. This entire story is phenomenal. I won't, spoil how it all plays out for those who haven't heard the story, but, of course, the Doctor is always the victor in some way, shape, or form, and that is no less true in this story, and it's a very, very fulfilling story when you listen to it in its complete 4 parts. As I say, each CD is broken up into 2 episodes, and closed my eyes through most of it. I was picturing sort of as if I were watching it because I'm a writer. I've always had a very vivid visual imagination, and it's very easy for me to shut my eyes and see the 8th Doctor as Paul McGann, appeared in the 96 TV movie, and Lucy Miller based on images I've seen of her and such like that, as well as the other characters. You basically open these little books, and I'll do that on camera right now for you, as a matter of fact. They come with little booklets as the covers, these pieces. And I love that you have essentially not only a big sort of fold-out, centerpiece that is integral to the story and the title, but you also have information about the voice actors and the direction and everything like that. The writer, some words from Nick Briggs, the director, and everything like that. And that was, for the first one. And once again, cast and, talking to the writer and the director and everything like that, giving you a real hands-on behind-the-scenes look at the Big Finish production. I absolutely loved it. Coinciding, once again, with the, final track, the bonus track, if you will, of behind-the-scenes interviews. And you also get a little write-up in this particular, on the inside of the cover, of who Lucy Miller is by this time and who Paul McGann's 8th Doctor is by this time, their history, and, that's how I knew about, Lucy's having sort of a history with this headhunter mistress character in the story. So, just phenomenal. Just a blast to listen to these. Again, Howard, thank you, sir, for sending them my way. And I highly recommend anyone who hasn't already gotten into Big Finish Doctor Who audio adventures, do so, because they are high quality stuff and just very enjoyable to watch and or listen to. And so I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below who are fellow Whovians. Are you into the audios? Have you been following them? Do you have more familiarity with them than I do? Or are you, maybe tentatively thinking about getting into them if you are a Whovian who's never experienced them before? And can you recommend me other potential stories that I might want to look for in the future? So yeah, otherwise I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.